another quiet Easter, devoid of public gatherings and the merrymaking that characterize the season. Church services must be held for a maximum of 2 hours. The requisite social distancing rules must be strictly obeyed. Nightclubs, cinemas, and pubs continue to be closed. Funerals, concerts, theatrical performances, and parties are banned. Private burials with no more than 25 people can take place with the enforcement of the social distancing, hygiene, and mask-wearing protocols. Spectators are still banned from going to the stadia to watch football matches. The police service will ensure strict conformity to these restrictions, and anyone found to be flouting them will be dealt with in accordance with law.
Well, ACP Kwesi Fori, the Accra Regional Director of Operations, also had this to say.
In Accra, one area that is of concern to the Accra Regional Command are the beaches. You know, we have a large and long track of beaches across the country in the southern end. And in Accra, we've identified beaches like Okurubite Beach, Bojo, Dansoman, Glefe, Mensagini, Independence Square, the Rivera beaches, Nungwa, Teshi, and Sakumono beaches.
So we've heard from His Excellency the President and, of course, the Ghana Police Service as well, specifically ACP Kwesi Fori. But it doesn't appear, Nimwa and Joseph, that people are really adhering. Take our beaches, for example. It appears it's free for all.
Yes, and that's how come the police officer, the senior police officer, makes the point that it is an area of concern for them. I mean, over the period, we've been told that the beaches have been closed. I, at one point in time, visited a facility that was close to the beach, and I saw a signboard that indicated that the beach was closed. But I just walked across, and there were people at the beach swimming, eating, dancing, and doing all sorts of things there. And so in terms of the compliance of the protocols, that has been the major difficulty that we have faced. And we know that people love to spend their Easter with their family by the beaches, and it could mean very disastrous for us in terms of our COVID-19 fight. Unfortunately, when we were celebrating Christmas, we didn't think through in this manner because of obviously the elections and the campaigning period. Then Christmas came in, and so we bear the brunt afterwards. I mean, in January, February, when we saw the cases spike.
Maybe the consequences were lost on us, but come January, then we started seeing the spike in numbers.
Yeah.
And you know, another thing is now the numbers are falling again, and people may be tempted to think, oh, it's all good to go, but it's not.
No, it's not. I mean, it's not just the numbers falling, but we're also getting vaccinated. And so there's a certain sense of false security, obviously, with people getting vaccinated and feeling like, you know, it's okay because I'm safe.
Yeah.
So it'll be important that the police are, like, seriously on the beat over the weekend, just to make sure. I mean, obviously, when you drive to the beach and there's police presence, you'll definitely, you know, go away. Because you don't want to get into trouble and ruin your Easter. So I think this weekend really just falls heavily on the police to make sure that they're enforcing what the President and the Greater Accra Regional Minister have spoken about concerning the closure.
You know what this brings to mind? Even before this time, I don't remember the last time I went to the beach.
Oh, I do.
It's been so long.
I do. So yeah, occasionally, you know, we kind of drive around to see what's happening at the beaches, and the new trend is people just parking in front of the beaches and sitting in the car, and, you know, perhaps just getting a sense of the air and the smells and the sounds, you know. So
and on the vaccine, you recall your conversation with Dr. Yao yesterday. He made the point that the immunity that the vaccine brings, you need to take the second shot.
Yes.
And so that is what people need to know. It's, the first shot you've taken is not really not giving you much effects as what the intended
It's the second
purpose.
one that is the real booster that triggers
Exactly.
you know,
yeah, but
the
even
sort of
still,
immunity,
it's
full
not,
immunity.
It's not like it's not even completely
It's not even
full.
complete
It's not like
immunity.
polio, or
Exactly.
you know, it will reduce your symptoms if you get it. So it's not full. We're not at that point of full immunity.
Then the other bit is about other people who may not have been vaccinated,
And exposing
others who
them to-
also may not have their immune system is not such that they can resist it. They may not do well with it, so you end up just infecting someone. So it's a whole you and me effort to ensure that.
Dana,
we don't get it.
let's get this clear.
Stay
We're all involved in this matter. I think as of yesterday, I think we had vaccinated about 55,000 people, but that's just a drop in the bucket. We're looking at 20 million people, so we are nowhere close to feeling we can go out and do whatever we feel like doing. But there's also another matter that has really come to the fore in recent days. It has to do with power outages. Very quickly, Anymore and Joseph, do you have light?
I think so. I left home with light, so I'm hoping the light is still there.
Have you experienced any power
Hasn't gone
outages
to Kwewu
recently?
for Easter? Yeah, during the week. It hasn't been too bad for me personally, but I have heard of stories. And I mean, if you go on social media, Twitter, Facebook, constantly, lights. So it's a big issue.
Joseph?
Big issue.
It goes off. I mean, it's very worrying, and sometimes you are just about to do something and the light goes off and you don't know when it's going to come back, and that explains why over the period we've seen lots of statements. I'm very worried about the Kumasi situation because unlike Accra, where we are told that by July we should have dealt with it, in Kumasi at December. I mean, so it's a major issue, and this has to do with a bit of having too much loads on one power line, and so they have to shed a bit of load because they are trying to move some of their power to a different line, and they are saying that that will take some time, and they are looking at up until December before they can resolve it. And so those in Kumasi are not too excited, and it's very tough times for them.
Would you be? I mean, if you were experiencing this, you obviously wouldn't. I know places like Asokwa, Forikrum, Ejisu, and other places also affected. And we'll be hearing shortly from some of them. I believe there's something you wanted to chip in.
Two things, really. The fact that March and April are the hottest months of the year, so really not a good time to have lights off. And secondly,
now you remind me of that.
Yeah, because
Hellish.
of COVID-19, we're being asked to not go out too much. So a lot more people are bulk buying and storing. So people are buying fish, chicken, meat, keeping in the fridge and the freezer. So when the lights start to go off and stuff, then your food starts to spoil, your appliances start to spoil. 2 or 3 days ago, we had callers who said, their TVs were blowing, the air conditioners were blowing, fridges, freezers. So, there's always that trickle-down effect of, apart from the inconvenience of having lights off, it actually starts to cost you money in spoiled food and spoiled appliances and all of that. So some sort of timetable, I think, is what we need. If the powers that be can just commit to that so that we know how to plan.
Well, we've been hearing from those at the helm of affairs, those who ought to manage the situation. Gridco has been telling us about the technical challenges. But let's hear from Kwame Ajiman Bedu, who is the managing director of ECG in the Ashanti region.
The unstable power supply from the end of January this year to date is very disturbing. The Gridco 161 kV transmission line is overloaded. And this 161 kV line serves our red box supply point and goes all the way to the north. We are also aware that the Bui power plant is shut down due to low water level, as outlined by the Gridco CEO. And due to these two problems, in evacuating power from Angomasu to load centers, we also experience low voltages. We are not in the doomsday era whereby we said, today we're going to disconnect here and then alternate. Right now, we are waiting for Gridco to give us the quantum of power that we have to manage. Not until that, we cannot give any schedule to the public because Gridco is working on the lines. So they will come and tell us that ECG, we are going to work on this side of your area. We need you to reduce load by this amount. Therefore, we will notify our cherished customers. Until that, we cannot give any timetable to the public.
What about the peak time?
And the peak time, the overloading or congestion of the 161 kV line of Gridco is normally happens during the peak hours, which is from 7 to 9, roughly. So all that we plead to the public that around that time, if unfortunate happens that your light goes off, please bear with Gridco and ECG because there's nothing we can do at that time because of the congestion. That's why Gridco has put in place measures to connect Kumasi to the north, thereby evacuate some of the power from 161 kV onto the 330 kV line they are constructing now.
Well, that is the managing director of ECG in Ghana. But let's also hear from Energy Minister Matthew Opoku-Prempeh.
The power has not been as consistently on as we all expect. Some have labeled it a return of Dunso. Some have called it Dunduma Dundum and whatever. This morning we are here basically with Ghana Grid Company to try and explain to Ghanaians that what is happening is not as a result of a generational problem or fuel shortage, but really some technical difficulties and challenges one or two institutions might be going through. So without much ado, even though GRADECO has been consistently coming out with press releases and press statements as to the cause of every power outage, we want them to take the opportunity of not only informing Ghanaians, of also reassuring us that what we are experiencing in a short time will be a thing of the past.
Well, they aren't the only ones who have been speaking, also in the thick of things, GRADECO. And here's their MD, Jonathan Amwakuba, their MD in the Ashanti region, speaking to the issues.
I believe that when my director of system operations was speaking, and I also added my voice to it, that when the time comes, we would inform Ghanaians. Currently, what we are doing, we have to be sure, because you cannot go and take off power and do nothing. We have to be sure of the time and then the extent. So we are liaising with the contractors, not only the contractors. ECG is also involved. MIDA, who is the project funding agency, is also involved. We are dealing with all these people to come up with a comprehensive timetable. And this timetable, as we said, is only for Accra and Winnipeg. It is not a nationwide thing. It is only for Accra and Winnipeg. Let's get that right, so that we don't go and say that there's a national timetable for load shedding or doom or whatever it is. That is not the case. This is the timetable which they are asking for outages in order to complete the works for the system to be resilient, so that we wouldn't have the intermittent outages that we are having.
Jonathan Amwakuba, the MD GRADECO for the Ashanti region. But the verdict really is out there. So you tell us, do you have light? What is your power situation? And of course, when it comes to Easter celebrations, how do you feel we can actually make the most of it without endangering our lives? The hashtag is JoySMS. The online news review is brought to you by Zenith Bank, in your best interest, and GOIL, good energy.
Okay, well, GOIL higher grade fuels have been tried, tested, proven, and accepted over the years as most suitable for all engine types, including the latest vehicles with the most modern engines. In addition to these superior qualities, GOIL higher grade fuels are further fortified with the XP3 additive multifunctional enhancer, which makes your car more efficient, eco-friendly, and is sold at no extra cost. GOIL higher grade fuels come in GOIL Super XP RON 95 and Diesel XP. They're sold in every GOIL station and not just selected ones. Fill up with GOIL higher grade fuels at Jibibia. GOIL, good energy, GOIL. Yenaraya dear.
Well, let's check out what's in the stories and the BBC News as well. We'll be getting to that. It's brought to you by Fidelity Bank, Believe with us, and Provident Insurance Company Limited. With Provident, man, you're covered.
Before we go to the BBC, though, let's just go to My Joy Online really quickly. And the headlines there: Rastafarian students denied enrollment by Achimota School sues. Once court order for the school to admit him. Other stories: major
He's
parts
also
of
thinking
Kumasi.
of compensation.
Yes, yes, major parts of Kumasi to experience power outage until December, and police patrol in Ashanti region increases ahead of Easter festivities. Let's move to citynewsroom.com. Okay, changing minorities' leadership will cause more harm than good. That's Cletus Avoka. And NIA to operate in 14 GRA offices for tin replacement beginning today. Okay, the BBC.com this morning. Floyd's pleas with officers shown in body cam film. George Floyd can be heard telling officers, "I'm not a bad guy," in newly revealed body cam footage. Really,
And all
really
for what?
sad.
Supposedly a fake $20 bill.
Bill.
You have Chauvin with his neck shoving, down his neck, basically.
Okay.
It's pretty difficult, but it's in court, so...
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Well, that's it for the online news review. Let's go to the BBC.
Well, let's check out the BBC and some of the stories there.
I nearly gave up on driving out of frustration. What hadn't I done? Purging, replacing electrical parts, changing my fuel pump, and still, the engine noise in my car won't stop. Then I met this guy who said I should